Hey everybody, welcome to the 757Teamz High School Football Chat. I'm Jami Frankenberry.
And I'm Larry Rubama.
The show is presented by our sponsor, Lionsbridge Financial, investing and planning for clients throughout Hampton Roads. You can check them out at lionsbridgefinancial.com. So, Larry, I think we are both still drying out from Friday night's game. Oscar Smith at Deep Creek. It was a rainy, windy, terrible night to be on the sidelines. But I think we learned a lot. One thing is that the Southeastern District champion is still the Southeastern District champion until somebody knocks him off, and that's Oscar Smith.
Yeah, Oscar Smith, you know, their offense wasn't impressive, but they did enough to be able to win the game. I mean, Deep Creek had 4 different things that went wrong. You know, a bad punt started off for a safety, another punt was blocked, another fumble was returned for a touchdown, another fumble turned in, helped Oscar Smith with a short field to get a touchdown. So, I mean, I know that Deep Creek was upset, but this is a learning experience. This is only going to help them as they get ready to prepare for the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, that's 97 straight district wins for Oscar Smith. The Tigers defense has allowed 13 points in the last 6 games. The only team that scored more than a touchdown was Vero Beach from Florida, which, by the way, I think is now 6 or 7-0. They're undefeated. And Oscar Smith lost to them by only a touchdown. So you talked about Deep Creek. This is Deep Creek's first loss. What do you think they'll take away from this first loss?
Well, I think they got to do some things offensively. Their offense just was not in sync the whole game. Of course, it happens that their starting quarterback was injured, and Michael Euro has come in and tried to help that thing go. But right now, I think they need to just settle down, get this game out of their system, win this game coming up, and then they got a big game coming up against Kings Fork in a couple of weeks. So they got to get that one, put it behind, and move on. It's only one loss, but they pretty much control their destiny throughout and just get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, Tayshawn Jones is the quarterback. He was injured 3 weeks ago against Indian River, has not played since. So we'll see how that unfolds as the season goes on. Moving on, you talked about Kings Fork. Kings Fork with a big win, 28-7 against Indian River. The Bulldogs are for real. I think they're 6-1 now. Darren Butts is running wild. He leads Southampton Roads with 1,100 yards rushing. He has scored 18 touchdowns in 7 games, which is crazy. Larry, the Bulldogs look like they're for real.
They do, especially, and for Butts to do it, we saw how nasty it was on Friday night, and for him to score that many touchdowns and run for that many yards, it's very impressive. And they can throw the ball as well, and they got a good defense. And, I think they have to kick themselves when they look back to that loss to Western Branch where they shouldn't have lost, and they're thinking, man, we could be undefeated right now. But they're rolling right now, and they got some big games coming up as well.
Yeah, Darren Butts has 2,640 career yards. He's been at Kings Fork for the last 3 seasons on the varsity team. That's about 1,000 yards shy of reaching the top 10 in Southampton Roads all time. I don't think he'll get that unless he really goes crazy. And he's got, like you said, Deep Creek and Oscar Smith coming up in the next 3 weeks. So we'll see how many yards he can get to. The other big game last week, Lake Taylor 20, Norcom 2. You picked it.
I did.
I didn't pick it. Tell me what happened with the Titans.
With their defense, I mean, again, you got to remember, Hank Sawyer, the coach over at Lake Taylor, has been doing this thing for years. They've been winning, 6 straight Eastern District titles. They know how to play. With their backs against against the wall. They had never lost back-to-back district games in a long time. And I'm sure he said, okay, let's get ready. Let's put up or shut up. And they shut up Norcom, and their defense is tough. I mean, holding Norcom to 2 points is pretty impressive, and when you have the kind of offense that they have, that Vera offense, and some good guys behind it who can run it, they can do some things. So we'll see. This comes right in time, too, as we get ready for the playoffs as well.
Yeah, that offense was perfectly suited for that weather on Friday night, and freshman quarterback Jeff Foster came in and played pretty well for them. That was Norcom's first loss. They only managed 49 yards of total offense in the entire game. What do the Greyhounds need to do to bounce back?
They got to find some offense. This isn't the first game. This is probably about 3 or 4 games where they've really struggled to be able to score some points. Their defense is sound, but they got to have some offense to be able to have that balance, or it could be a short run in the playoffs. But they have it. I think Coach Larry Archie will get them together and say, hey, here's the things we did wrong. Let's get this thing together before we get into the playoffs.
Yeah, Norcom, you remember they beat Booker T 7-6. They beat Norview. I think that was 13-7. So they've had their struggles on offense. so far this season. Is this a big win for Lake Taylor? Can they use this to kind of propel themselves through the second half?
Without a doubt, because they can say, hey, now nobody in this district is undefeated anymore. We're still in this thing. I mean, they only got one loss in the district right now. So, put all the rest of the games behind. Now they just start playing for the playoffs, and I think they're going to be all right.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the Eastern District race and also about All-Tidewater Player of the Year race right after this word from our sponsor.
You embody dedication, sacrifice, and commitment. You are an elite athlete. You know the difference superior coaching makes. Lionsbridge Financial Advisors is here to be your financial coach. We'll help you pack for your athletic journey by gathering a complete picture of where you are and where you want to go, and by working with other trusted professionals on your behalf.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. I'm here with Larry Rubama. We're talking high school football in Southampton Roads. And let's look at the Twitter poll from last week. We spoke about the Eastern District. The poll, who survives in the Eastern District? It is just a logjam at the top. You've got Norcom beat Granby. Granby beat Lake Taylor. Lake Taylor beat Norcom. So the poll numbers, Norcom, 47% think the Greyhounds are going to win. Lake Taylor got 29%, Granby at 19%, and Booker T at 5%. Larry, which of those teams do you think survives?
I think we're going to have a three-way tie for first place in the Eastern District, and ties aren't strange to the Eastern District. In 2010, Churchland and Norcom shared the title. 2009, Churchland and Lake Taylor. 2006, Lake Taylor and Maury. So I think it's going to be a three-way tie. But when you look at the rest of the schedule, Granby has Churchland and Maury coming up. Churchland's only won one game. Norcom has Maury, who struggled pretty much the season, and winless Wilson. And then Lake Taylor's got winless Wilson, Churchland with one victory, and Booker T. That could be the big game for them, is that game against Booker T, because Booker T is much better. But Granby has not won an Eastern District title since 2004, so I think it's going to be a three-way tie.
Yeah, I like, you talked about Granby. Granby has played really well. The thing that's keeping this is for you Comets fans out there. The Comets can't get into the top 10. I think they got a couple votes this week. Yeah. They lost to top 10 teams. They lost to Cox early in the season. They've also lost to Norcom. They did beat Lake Taylor, so we'll see how the Comets do. The Comets have a big game coming up in 2 weeks against Thomas Dale up in Richmond. But yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. Booker T has played really well. They played Norview, Lake Taylor. Now you talked to Norview's coach DJ Alexander this week. What did he say about that youthful lineup?
He loves it. He loves it. His biggest concern now is letting those youth players know to continue to buy into the program, continue to get the experience, continue to get the being positive and confident that they can play in this district. And I tell you, the next 3 years look really good for Booker T. But right now, they just want to get into the playoffs. It's been a long time since they've been there. They want to win in the playoffs, which has been even longer. So right now, I think he has them ready, believing in him, believing in the system. And if everything goes well, I mean, they should do real well in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see how the Eastern District pans out. By the way, for all you sticklers out there, we know the Eastern District, no districts give any district championship trophies out, but just bear with us. We're talking about the standings and who's winning and that sort of thing. So let's move on to this week. We got another big game involving Oscar Smith. It's on Saturday at 3 o'clock, Larry. Oscar Smith, number 1 in the area, travels to number 8 Indian River, Saturday, 3 p.m. What do you think about this rivalry?
Well, Glenwood Farabee, the coach over at Indian River, has always said the measuring stick of this whole season is how you do against Oscar Smith. Until somebody beats Oscar Smith, they're still the champs. They have a chance. We never forget the game, but it was 2 years ago when they were right there, had the game, and couldn't pull it out. But 2015 when they lost 15-14. But that's the game. It's going to be senior night at Indian River. Here's our other big game. They had a big game against Deep Creek that they lost that one at home. Can they come back and be able to bounce back and win this game? They're just coming off a loss to Kings Fork, so they got a lot at stake right now. Can they beat Oscar Smith? I don't think it's going to get done. I just think Oscar Smith's defense is just too tough right now. But we'll see what happens. But it's going to be it should be a nice experience and a lot of fans out there as well.
Yeah, that's on Saturday at Indian River. And Oscar Smith has always been in these big games, but Indian River's played in a couple also. Right. I think the big question mark for Indian River, though, is that offense. Can they score some points? They only scored 7 last week. Now, it was in a driving rain against Kings Fork. But they really struggled also in the second half a couple of weeks ago against Deep Creek, so they've lost 2 of their last 3 games. We talked a little bit about Oscar Smith's offense. What do they need to do on offense to get better, do you think?
They need to throw the ball a little bit more. They only completed one pass last week. I know it was raining, but you still got, what happens in the playoffs if teams know you're going to run? They have a really good running core, but right now they got to be able to spread that ball out a little bit more. And we've seen that in past Oscar Smith teams, how they're able to be able to do it both in the air as well as on the ground. So they got to start to get that thing together in the air for sure.
Yeah, Khalid Wilson and D'Angelo White have led them on the ground. They, I think, both have more than 400 yards. Yeah. At quarterback, Cameron Kelly has played pretty well. They also have brought in Dominique Brooks at quarterback, so we'll see. Now, Indian River, offensively, they've struggled. What do they need to do against that Oscar Smith defense?
Run the ball, but that's very tough. It's easier said than done. Teams have tried to do that all season, and we know what happens. Oscar Smith turns them away, so they got to find a way to run the ball. They got 3 different running backs that can do it, but it's going to be tough against that defense. The defense is just, look what they did last week with against Deep Creek, who would run the ball really well this year. So they got a tough challenge coming up.
Yeah, also this week, on Friday, Cox at Tallwood. That's a Beach District battle, Class 6. Both of those teams battling for playoff positioning. What do you think of that one, Larry?
Well, I looked it up. I didn't realize Tallwood has not beaten Cox since 2008. That's a long time. So, and Cox has Tavion Robinson, who does his thing. So if they can slow down Tavion Robinson, Tallwood has a chance. But I have a feeling they know how big this game is for the playoffs. I think Cox is going to be ready.
Yeah, I think, what the X factor might be for Cox this season is a guy named Carson DiNardo.
Yes.
Kicked 3 field goals last week in a 9-0 win.
Right.
The week before that, he hit a game-winning field goal with 2.6 seconds left against Kellum. So, that means a lot. We saw some teams who don't have field goal kickers, and they've lost some close games. So Carson DiNardo could make a big difference for Cox down the stretch and in the playoffs. Also, Nansemond River at Deep Creek. Right. That's a really interesting game. That one's also on Friday night at 7. Larry, can the Warriors go in there and get a win against Deep Creek?
I don't think so. We were talking about betting the house. I don't think so. I think Deep Creek has a lot to prove. They lost that game last week against Oscar Smith. They know they shot themselves in the foot, not just once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. They got to get back on the roll, especially when they got Kings Fork the following week. So some people look at this game as one that maybe they'll take them lightly. Deep Creek wants to get back on the board. They have to basically just right the ship, put last week's game behind, and show, hey, look, we're still a powerhouse, and let's get things done. So I think, Nansemond River did stop their losing streak. They lost 3 in a row last week. So we'll see what happens. But I like Deep Creek's chances. They're at home. This is a game that they really need.
Yeah, I agree. I think Nansemond River can run the ball. They've got some pretty good running backs. They got 4 or 5 guys who can really run the ball. But I think Deep Creek can solve them on defense. We'll see if Tayshawn Jones returns to the offense for Deep Creek. So that's it for this week's games. A little preview of next week. Now, we have 3 weeks left in the regular season. You've heard of the Heisman race. Well, this is the All-Tidewater Player of the Year race. With 3 weeks left, we're going to talk about Player of the Year candidates. So with 3 weeks left, Larry, which 3 players do we need to see in those last 3 weeks?
You got Butts. Darren Butts has been doing it all season. He's leading them. Look at Kings Fork, how they're playing right now. He's, I think, right now the number 1. Then I look at also at Tavion Robinson from Cox. Yes, the record, they're not at the top right now, but they're near the top, and he's been doing it all. He's been their go-to player to do it all. And then the third one I really like right now is Daryl Jones over at Princess Anne. He was a wide receiver, turns to running back, and he's doing the thing as running back. And they're another team that's trying to get back in the playoffs to see what they do. So I like those top 3 right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think those 3 are really good candidates. Don't forget about Brent Stooks, the quarterback at Lansdowne. He can run, he can throw. Lansdowne, by the way, 8-0. They have a bye this week, so we'll see how they come out of the bye with 2 games left. You talked about that Oscar Smith defense. Keyshawn Artis is playing great. He was one of your top 2 or 3 in the area in the class of 2018. And Taraja Mitchell, we have not talked about Bishop Sullivan lately. They've been on the road. They've lost a couple games. They return home this week, play a game against Royal Imperial Collegiate. Easier for you to say.
From Ontario.
So we'll see that. That's Friday night. So anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. Don't forget, check out Friday's newspaper for our predictions, capsules, previews on all the games. And you can join us on Twitter at 757Teamz on Friday night. If you want to listen to this as a podcast, you can download this on iTunes. And thanks for joining us, everybody.